This is a nothing. Yes, did they play perfect? No, they still win. Yes.
What are you doing if the Celtics win the championship?
If the Celtics win championship, I might break my sobriety. I might act up.
We did it! You got him.
All the way.
Celtics versus Heat. Celtics in what?
4.
Celtics versus Knicks. Celtics in
4.
You got Celtics in 4? Hell yeah.
Use a vocab word from a couple years ago. It's mind-boggling.
That's it, GRG. Let's go. What do you think tonight?
You think I'm worried about the Warriors? I ain't worried about the
Let's go, baby. 18, baby. Load up the boat.
Why would you say that?
Because
I'm not. No,
recently he's putting up games like.
Above our head for the players.
Literally right now.
But I think when Marcus, especially Marcus, when he got traded, I think that was a wake-up call.
You think right now,
Rob,
it's still New York?
I do.
And when I think of the Celtics dynasty, honestly, one of the first names that comes to my mind is actually Brad Stevens.
Sorry, we're going right into it.
Oh, you gotta restart it.
Oh, jeez.
Gotta restart it.
Call the lawyers. Call the attorneys.
I waited 5 long games, 5 brutal watch, or 4.5 brutal watches to do that. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. I'm your host, Robbie Haytayan. Joined with me are my 3 co-hosts. You know these guys, Nick Franco, Andrew Quinn, and Seamus Zarlingo. Guys, the Boston Celtics move past the Orlando Magic tonight and win the Eastern Conference first round 4-1 with a 120-89 blowout win at the TD Garden. Guys, it feels like a breath of fresh air getting past this Orlando team in what was a very interesting 5 games. I can't wait to talk about it and put these guys behind us. You guys know the drill here. Our initial thoughts, reactions, takeaways on tonight's game, and I also should add the series as a whole.
We don't have to talk about the Orlando Magic anymore. You're telling me?
No, we do. We got about another hour and a half, and then we're done. Done.
We've been covering the series through and through, and we knew it was going to be a dogfight from the series preview, because we knew that Orlando was going to bring it on the defensive end, and we knew it was going to be a physical series, but to the extent that Orlando brought it to was beyond expectations. So being able to survive a physical series like that, and also being able to escape that series early and not allowing this to go on to a extended series, which would be 6 or 7 games, is a huge advantage for the Celtics. If you look around the NBA, you're seeing our neighbor teams in the playoffs, the New York Knicks and Detroit Pistons. Their series has been extended, but at the beginning of this game, it was pretty shaky at the start. You saw Orlando bringing that burst of energy, getting those rotational players in there. Paulo Banchero was pretty much shut out of the game after halftime and really got himself into foul trouble, which kind of dismantled anything that the Orlando Magic had going for him. But once the Celtics got past that first half where they shot a historic low of 6 3-pointers alone and didn't make a single one of them, the Celtics were able to open those floodgates and really surpass the Orlando Magic. The Jaylen Brown in the first half was kind of forcing shots in early situations alongside his teammates. That seemed like the Celtics were just trying to get that spark ignited early and trying to play with a sense of physicality and aggression, establishing a presence down low. And Orlando was able to maintain that throughout the game and out-rebounded the Celtics, but the Celtics were able to beat the Orlando Magic in the way that we knew they were going to throughout the series, was with their offensive capabilities, and those offensive capabilities begin with Jason Tatum.
What an unconventional game to close out this series in a slew of unconventional games this entire series. The Celtics, looking at the entirety of this Celtics Magic series, just could never get their sea legs under them in terms of their offensive production. They never scored over 110 in the first 4 games, and the Celtics, we came on here time and time again talking about their struggles against the Orlando Magic defense. Well, tonight, it was much of the same in the first half, and it looked like, oh, to close out this series, the Celtics are going to have to do it again. They're going to have to win another game down the stretch, another physical, muck it out, grind it out game against the Orlando Magic with the Orlando Magic season on the line. And let's face it, folks, Paulo Banchero picking up his 5th foul with 9:46 left to go in the third quarter completely changed this game. Completely. The game was tied 53-53 when Paulo Banchero exited the floor with 5 fouls with 9:46 to go in the third quarter. When Paulo Banchero came back into the game, it was the start of the fourth quarter, and the Celtics held an 83-62 lead. The Celtics went on a 30-9 run with Paulo Banchero sitting on the bench. And my goodness, Jamal Mosley could not have fumbled this game any further in that third quarter because in a crucial moment, Paulo Banchero was not out on the floor. And Jamal Mosley, we understand head coaches in these situations. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to try to preserve their best player for the final stretch of games, crunch time of games, the most important moment of a game. But because Paulo Banchero was off the floor for such an elongated period of time, that was the most important part of the game in which Paulo Banchero didn't even see the floor for. And that was the fault of Jamal Mosley, also Paulo Banchero himself picking up those 5 fouls, and he picked up about what 3 in a 2-minute time frame to start the second half. It was just absolutely ridiculous how how fast Paulo Banchero went from being an active player in this game to sitting because of foul trouble. But that changed the entire complexity of this game for the Celtics because all of a sudden, when Paulo Banchero went to the bench, the Celtics, they were back to their mismatch hunting ways. Cole Anthony came into the game. Gary Harris came into the game. Corey Joseph, his minutes. The Magic continued Corey Joseph's minutes. And all 3 of those players, the Celtics felt 100% comfortable attacking via mismatches. And you saw it with Jason Tatum, you saw it with Jaylen Brown, and you saw the Orlando Magic. They changed up their defense to the point where the Celtics, they found those open 3-point shots in the second half. And you see the Celtics, it looks like a typo. The Celtics, they shoot 13 of 24 from 3, only 24 3-point attempts tonight. And that number is even more impressive considering the Celtics shot 13 of 18 from 3 in the second half. In the first half, the Celtics, Franco, you already mentioned it, they only shoot 6 threes in the first half, miss all of them. And that kind of showed, we've been talking about this conversation of, oh, can the Celtics adjust against this Magic defense? That shows the Celtics being unable to adjust against that Magic defense, and the Magic defense holding the Celtics at bay where they wanted to hold the Celtics, because in that first half, the Celtics, they were killing the Magic in the paint because the Magic, they weren't sending help, they were sending minimal help, and all of the Celtics in which had the ball, whether it was Derek White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they were just left to go one-on-one with open driving lanes to the hole, and the Celtics, they were just going after the two, going after the two, going after the two. That's why we only saw 6 3-point attempts in that first half. But in that third quarter, once Paulo Banchero, the Magic's best player, went out of the game, I mean, first of all, the scoring the Magic missed within that time frame was evident. The playmaking the Magic missed was evident, but also just the defensive ability to match the Celtics out on the floor. Once Paulo Banchero went out of the game, once he sat on the bench, the Orlando Magic no longer had the pieces to match up with the Celtics defensively, and which has been such a key point all series long. I already mentioned it, some of the guards who were out there, but the Celtics, those 3-point shots opened up for the Celtics. They went crazy there at the end of that third quarter, beat the Magic 36-13 in that third quarter, and that was pretty much all she wrote. I mean, Jamal Mosley kept Banchero on the bench the entirety of those 9 minutes, and it was pretty much inexcusable with the Magic's season on the line. That was definitely a gaffe. It's not the biggest gaffe in the world, knowing, yes, you can mess up like that as a head coach, especially when the avalanche of threes like the Celtics committed out on the floor comes at you so fast. However, the Magic season, it was on the line right there. And when it was getting out of hand, I mean, it should not have mattered that Paolo Banchero had 5 fouls. He should have been out there once it was getting from 10 to 14 to 15. And then eventually it was 21 going into that fourth quarter. And by that time, when you're down 21 and you're this Magic team who tonight, look, they didn't score over 100 points in this entire series. They scored exactly 100 once. Once they scored exactly 100. The rest of the games, they don't score over 100, and tonight they don't even score over 90. 89 points for the Magic. In a situation like that, where you're not an offensively capable team, and the score and the margins are getting completely out of hand from yourself, and you're letting the rope go. At that point, it's all hands on deck. And unfortunately, the Magic and Jamal Mosley realized that too late. And that's where the Celtics gained every advantage in this game, because up to that point, before Paolo Banchero had 5 fouls and needed to sit down on the bench, it was a 53-53 ball game. The Magic were winning all the margins in which the Magic needed to win in order to pull out yet another game in this series. They were winning the turnover battle. They were winning the second chance points battle. They were winning the rebounding battle. They were winning all of the marginal battles in which we've talked about all series long. The Magic need to win in order to win games in this series. The field goal attempt discrepancy, even at the end of the game. I mean, this is just, it's absolutely amazing looking at some of the numbers at the end of the game, because the Celtics still finished with less shots than the Orlando Magic, yet beat them by 31 points tonight. And that just shows you some of the barrage of 3-point shooting the Celtics committed down the stretch. But this one, it wasn't close. It felt like this was going to be another grinded out, seriously hard-nosed physical game at the end, all the way to the end. And we were going to come in here and say, oh, the Magic, they fought right down until the last second, but the Celtics were able to take it over. Well, that's not what we talked about. That's not what we're going to talk about at all tonight, because the Celtics absolutely blew out the Magic in that second half, absolutely blew them out in the third quarter, and Paolo Banchero sitting on the bench had everything to do with it. The Celtics, you want to give them praise for what they were able to do when the mismatches were out there for the Magic, and once the Magic started to break down. But this game had everything to do with the fact that Paolo Banchero, a true superstar in the making, I would say, for the Orlando Magic, 100,000%. Paolo Banchero is a superstar in the making. What he was able to do in this series, what he's been able to do in the limited time he's played this season because of the oblique injury and some other injuries he sustained, he is just phenomenal. And you saw in that third quarter when he went out of the lineup, the Magic were completely lost. The Celtics completely pounced on it, and we saw a version of the Celtics team that we hadn't seen in really 2 weeks since since those Charlotte Hornets games back to back to end the season. Every single game in this series has been back and forth, grinded out, physical. Even game one when the Celtics won by 17 points. That was a game that felt like the Magic, they were hanging around there until late in the second half. Tonight was a different story. The Celtics finally, near the end of that game, did exactly everything they wanted to do in this series. And the Magic, they couldn't make it up within the little margins of the game in which they were trying to win, such as field goal attempts, rebounding, second chance points, all the little extra things, turnovers, like I mentioned. All those things didn't matter at the end when the Celtics, they shoot 13 of 18 from 3-point land in the second half, and absolutely put away the Magic in such an efficient manner. Again, the fact that Celtics did not take as many shots as the Magic tonight, yet blew them out by 31, certainly tells you something about that second half, especially when the Celtics were trailing at halftime. And I believe we do have a tweet for this as well. The Celtics, that's NBA history, folks. The winning margin of 31 points is the largest ever in a playoff game after trailing at half. So we have our Dick Light stat here of the night. Golden State had a 29-point win against Houston in 2018 after trailing at half by 10. I believe that was game 6 of the Western Conference Finals, if I'm not mistaken. That's where Houston had a chance to close it out in Golden State, and then game 6 Clay came over and took over in the third quarter. So the Celtics putting themselves amidst elite company yet again, other championship teams of the past. One of the biggest wins in NBA history for the Celtics, the biggest win in NBA history for the Celtics after trailing at half. So mighty impressive for the season. Of course, these series, I'll say this too, not always easy to win these series. In the past, it took 7 games against the Milwaukee Bucks. We saw against the Chicago Bulls in 2017, lost the first 2 there, needed to win in 6. And these kind of series, I'm just saying, the first round, they're gimmies nowadays for the Celtics, but they're not always easy. And to make it into that top 8 in the NBA to end the season is certainly an accomplishment. Obviously, the Celtics won a lot more with their season here, but just to make it to that point, there's certainly something to celebrate right now before the Celtics get back to work. Who knows, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whoever it'll be between the Knicks and the Pistons.
Yeah, I think I agree with the fact how we were able to recover and able to adapt to the game, because we weren't hitting our threes. We were kind of stagnant on the offensive end. Our ball movement wasn't as impressive as past games, but our ability to adapt and drive and attack and take what the Magic was giving us just shows that we are a better team than the Magic, just in all facets, because we can play their game and still stay with them. And then I really love the fact that we were able to then go back to our game, knock down threes beyond the arc, hit at a high clip, and just really, really punish the Magic finally and get over that hump of having them stay within reach. So I'm just happy to see that the Celtics were able to withstand the physicality and really just show the league that we were the better team in this series and that we have the capability to do this to other teams. And then I just want to highlight Tatum too. I mean, Tatum was just crazy impressive. Averaging 31 points this season. I mean, averaging 31 points this series on maybe 11-ish rebounds or something like that. I mean, just Tatum's ability to withstand that high level of play despite being injured and just take over this series and lead the Celtics to a 4-1 series. I just think it's amazing to see Tatum's development, and I'm very excited to see how he continues to grow and impact the Celtics as the playoffs continue.
I thought this was the most impressive playoff game the Celtics have played under this core group of guys. And I think what was most impressive about it was the fact they only took 9 threes in that first half, because a lot of people looked at that and thought to themselves, they haven't made any threes. But I'm sitting there thinking, Boston is adapting. Boston is taking what Orlando is giving them. They're not forcing. They are trying to get to the rim. They are playing their game, because Boston knew if you stick with it, if you get to the paint, eventually those shots will show up, those open looks. And once you get into a rhythm, once you get into a flow, at some point this series, it was due to happen. The floodgates will open. And that is exactly what happened. So Boston's ability to adapt to the game. They only took 24 threes tonight, and they were selective and smart with each and every single one. I have always said it on this show. It is not about the quality, or it's not about the quantity of threes. It is about the quality. If Boston is taking 50 wide open threes, I am a-okay with that over them taking 25 contested step back threes. Tonight, they took 24 great looks outside of that Kristaps Porzingis random half-court shot he threw up there early in the first quarter. But outside of that, 23 great wide open looks tonight from the Celtics. That was super, super impressive. Their ability to stick with it and adapt to the game. I thought Jaylen Brown looked really good tonight. From an athletic standpoint, I thought defensively and offensively, he looked like he had that extra step again. He looked, quick on defense with his slides, and I think that was reassuring, knowing now Brown can have a couple extra days rest in what should be the most physical series behind him. And then, I mean, Andrew, you nailed it. Jason Tatum happened. I mean, this was one of the most impressive games we had seen out of Jason Tatum in his playoff tenure. 35, 8, and 10. We're going to talk about him later on in the show. I mean, he was ridiculous tonight, a plus 34 in 34 minutes. I mean, 35 points on 16 shots. I mean, he was just dominating in every facet of the game tonight, and he was a key part to what the Celtics were doing in their ability to get past Orlando tonight. Also, I want to highlight the bench. 29 bench points from the 3 guys off the bench: Cornette, Hauser, and Pritchard. 10 from Hauser, 10 from Pritchard, 9 from Cornette. Very efficient. 3 for 3 from Luke, 4 for 4 from Hauser, 4 of 8 from Pritchard. Just very pleased with those guys. I thought that was huge. I think Orlando's bench kind of been out hustling them and outplaying them this series. And I think game 5 tonight in that second half, they were able just to open up the floodgates and find ways to contribute. Hauser had been a guy that had struggled through those first 3 games. He kind of got his footing a little bit underneath him last game in game 4. Tonight, he looked much more comfortable coming off those screens, knocking down a couple threes. Obviously, the dagger in that corner from Jason Tatum's for his 10th assist. Let's take a look at the lead tracker real quick here, guys. The Sea of Green's back, and it was as big as we have seen it this season, guys. Orlando led in this game at the midway point of the second quarter. They led by their largest lead of the night, 9 points, guys. The Celtics, that's not a typo. Seamus, you already talked about it with that stat. They led by as many as 34 points this game, guys. That sea of green just absolutely taking over. As soon as Paolo Banchero picked up his 5th foul, it was all Celtics from there on out. We've talked a lot about what went right in that third quarter, but just a little bit more, guys. When that third quarter barrage happened, outside of that Paolo Banchero foul, right, that 5th foul, obviously that helps. From an offensive standpoint, what stood out to you guys?
When I talk about the Celtics, I always bring up the fact that the Celtics are a team that base their entire frequency on a game of runs. And that's exactly what happened in the first quarter of this game when the Celtics were able to narrow down the lead to a closer status. Start going on that 18-3 run in the first quarter, and then carrying on into the second half, drawing it a little bit closer. Obviously, Tatum getting that final second bucket heading into halftime. That's going to create a lot of momentum for the Celtics team. So when you get these guys to play with a little bit of more energy, you start to see that confidence start to trickle down the roster, and you see people taking shots that are within their game, and they start hitting them at a frequent rate. When usually when they're playing a team like Orlando, you'll see it be a little bit tossed up. But going against the Celtics or going against the Magic defense, they were able to just expose those mismatches, especially as Banchero came out of the game. You would see a lot of those matchups happen, and you would also saw the Celtics transition to forcing Franz Wagner to carry the entire weight of the Orlando Magic offense in the second half. I will sleep perfectly fine tonight if Corey Joseph and Gary Harris are the ones trying to score on the Celtics offense. And in a 7-game series, that's just not going to help them out. And defensively, it just opened up so many open looks for this team, and Jaylen Brown was able to get things rolling for himself. Getting his 3-point shot, he had a couple of good looks in the first half, but they weren't really falling for him because they were more isolation. But you started to see the Celtics round back to that team ball, that killer whale offense that we're so accustomed to seeing, especially during the last stretch of this regular season. But that was the most confident we've seen the Celtics offense since they went on that terrific run to end this regular season. And now heading into a series with either New York or Detroit, depending on who the matchup is, they are a defensive mind. They're both defensive-minded opponents. However, you're going to see a lot more on the offensive end come from either of those potential matchups for the Celtics. But if you have either of those teams playing against you, you're going to see this team rely a lot more on creating those types of looks and relying on their offense to carry them through and getting them past the second round, and just like they did in the first. And it's so imperative for this team to get their rest right now, because of how physical of a series this was, and tonight was no different. Orlando was playing rough with the Celtics, and it kind of seemed like they pushed the button enough to the point where they poked the bear, and the bear ended up having 35 points on them once again.
The bear of Jason Tatum. Yes, the bear of Jason Tatum. But in this third quarter, really, the Celtics, we already talked about it to start out this program, but Paolo Banchero missing out on this third quarter for 9:46. This is a game where Paolo Banchero needs to play 48 minutes, much less miss 10 minutes in the third quarter in the most crucial moment of the game. That's what flipped the game around because not only Paolo Banchero scoring and playmaking, not only was that missed out on the floor, it was the defensive versatility in which the Orlando Magic missed. And once that defensive versatility was gone from the floor, the Celtics were back into the groove in which they've seen all season long, which is, oh, a team, you're throwing out a 6'2" guard on us. Okay, we have Jason Tatum. All right, you're switching everything. Oh, cool. We're gonna go. Pass the ball to Jason Tatum and let him go one-on-one against Corey Joseph. Oh, you don't want to give up threes? Because guess what? This is exactly what the Magic were doing. The entirety of the series, they weren't giving up the three ball. So essentially, in this particular scenario, you have Cole Anthony out on the floor. He comes in for Paolo Banchero, and there's a major size disadvantage there for the Magic. But it's Cole Anthony, it's Gary Harris, it's Corey Joseph. Those guys are any of them are one-on-one with Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. There's an advantage, a physical advantage, a height advantage for the Celtics in that scenario. And what Orlando was doing all series long was with their defensive versatility, they were switching everything and they were not helping on drives. They were not allowing the Celtics to take 3-point shots because the Celtics, the name of the game, is going up against guys who are smaller, less physical than guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, taking those guys to the hole, collapsing the defense, and either you're getting a wide open bucket or a tough bucket against somebody who is going to be smaller than Brown or Tatum, or you're getting a wide open three if the help comes over. I mean, that's what the Celtics offense wants to generate. They either want to generate those downhill buckets or those corner or wing threes, and they want them to be wide open. Well, Orlando, they were staying home on the 3-point line this entire series, and they were allowing Brown, they were allowing Tatum to go to the rim and take on their guys one-on-one. And like I said last post game or two post games ago, Orlando is comfortable doing that because they have the size and physicality to do that out there. However, once Paolo Banchero, one of their best defenders, he sits down on the bench. Orlando, they bring in Cole Anthony, Gary Harris is out there, Corey Joseph is out there. All of a sudden, the Celtics, they go, oh, there's a mouse in the house. Many places here. We want to attack Gary Harris. We want to attack Corey Joseph. We want to attack Cole Anthony in all of these scenarios. And that's what we saw the Celtics do. And how the 3-point shot opened up is when you have those lesser physical, smaller guys on Tatum and Brown, well, all of a sudden the Magic need to help in those situations because Tatum and Brown are going to get whatever they want to get going downhill against a less physical player such as a Cole Anthony. And that's why he was taken out of the lineup too. We want to mention that he was taken out of the lineup essentially in game 4 because he was the defensive weak link for the Magic. But once the Magic started helping in these situations with Cole Anthony or whoever else on ball, whether it was, Tatum, Brown, whoever was handling the ball, you have Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, Corey Joseph. If any of those guys are switched onto the ball, well, now the Magic want to help because they realize, oh, that there is a major size disadvantage for us there. We need to send two to that when these guys go to the rim. And then all of a sudden, those 3-point shots open up. So in the first half, the Magic had the defensive versatility to stay home on their game plan and keep allowing the Celtics to go to the rim. What was astonishing is in the first half, I have here somewhere in my notes. So the first half, the Celtics, they don't shoot. So they don't make a three in the first quarter whatsoever. By halftime, the Celtics, they were, let's see, at half, the Celtics were 0 of 6 from 3-point land. All right, 0 of 6 from 3-point land. However, if you look at the Celtics shooting in the first half, there were a lot of guys in which were actually shooting the ball particularly well. Tatum, he was 6 of 9 in the first half. Horford, he was 2 of 3 in the first half. Porzingis, 3 of 6. Hauser and Cornette, they were both 1 of 1. Brown, he was 4 of 10. Derek White, 2 of 5. Pritchard was the lowest percentage on the team shooting in the first half, 33%. He was 1 of 3. Everybody else, for the most part, they're either 40% or above, and particularly at what, 5 guys who were shooting over 50% or over in the first half, but 0 of 6 from 3. And that just shows you the fact the Celtics, they didn't find the 3-point shots in which they wanted to shoot in that first half. And even some of them were absolutely terrible shots. I mean, we had a Derek White huck up in the first half. We had a couple of them that just, they weren't good looks for the Celtics whatsoever. Yet the third quarter comes around. Orlando, they go away from that defense, and the entirety of the court opens up for the Celtics, and the Celtics go 13 of 18 from 3 in the second half. And let's see, by my math, that's correct, right? I keep saying 13 of 18 from 3. So they shot 13 of 24, if I'm not mistaken here, and they shot 6 attempts in the first half. So
We're
that's 13 of
mathematicians
18.
over here.
No, I'm
Yep.
just making sure. Like, I'm making sure that's the actual number, because that's what I'll do the math behind this, but then maybe the official number. It's like, well, if you're trying to solve an equation, you have the wrong number within the equation, you're going to get the wrong answer. So, just looking at that, the Celtics obviously they didn't find those 3-point shots in that first half, and they were content going downhill, and they were actually making a good amount of shots. But the reason the Magic had the lead at half, they were winning within all the margins. I mean, you look at the first 15 minutes of the game, Orlando 7 offensive rebounds to Boston's 1, but it just got worse as the game went along. There was, let's see, with 90 seconds into the second half, which was inching towards the moment in which Boncaro picked up his 5th foul, but 90 seconds into the second half, it was 13-0 in terms of second chance points, 12-1 in terms of offensive rebounds in favor of the Magic. So the Magic, they were up 13-0 in second chance points, 12-1 in offensive rebounds. And then at half, the Celtics 9 turnovers at half to the Magic's 4. So you see, and then the field goal attempt discrepancy, Orlando 47 at half to Boston's 38. And I already mentioned the Celtics were actually outshot in this game, but you saw the Magic that they had that 2-point lead at halftime, and what changed in that third quarter was the fact the Magic, they couldn't continue to commit to their defensive game plan against the Celtics. And then once that went awry, I mean, it was just an avalanche for the season. With 13 of 18, that's just insane. After you shoot 0 of 6 from 3 in the first half, 13 of 18 is absolutely insane in the second half. But that 13 of 18 is what we are used to seeing out of the Celtics. And the crowd, it felt like the crowd, they were definitely getting under the seas near the end of that third quarter. And we had a classic playoff moment with Al Horford at the end of the third quarter when, I believe it was Tatum, he dishes him the ball, and it's almost a buzzer beater. It's a buzzer beater type attempt, and Al Horford, it kind of does this front rim bounce, bounces off the backboard, goes in, and the whole garden explodes. And it felt like a moment where you can feel, yes,
Better to be
leading up
lucky
to
than
that
magic.
possession, if the Celtics were to score on that possession, the garden was just going to explode. And of course, the ball goes in via almost miracle bounce from Al Horford in the corner. That was another Al Horford classic playoff moment and a classic Boston Celtic playoff moment. But it came at the end of the third quarter when the Celtics just went on their barrage of 3-point shooting and offensive creation. 36 points in the third quarter to 13 for the Magic, and then in the fourth quarter as well, the Celtics do it again. 37 points in the fourth quarter. We've seen this entire series. It's been difficult for the Celtics to score points. So to end the series off like that, is certainly a positive note for the Celtics. And we kind of know why. Boncaro went out of the lineup, changed the entirety of the complexity of the game, but it just shows you how important Boncaro was to that Magic team in this series, and how close the Celtics were actually to dominating this series if a guy like Boncaro wasn't if he wasn't in the lineup in this series, how close it was for the Magic to kind of let the rope go, and how thin the margins actually were for the Magic in this series. Obviously, we saw the Magic just fight their tails off for 5 straight games. But that second half, once one link was destroyed, I mean, the entirety of the bottom of the barrel just completely fell out for the Magic, and the Celtics took advantage and really came up with one of their best performances in a second half or half all season long. In a playoff setting, Game 5, closing out the series, this is exactly what you want to see out of the Celtics going ahead, especially knowing if the Celtics closed out tonight and the Knicks. You know, the Knicks, they lost at home in Game 5. And They don't take care of business down in New York there, but they have to play an extra game in their series. That result went final before the final of this one, and just knowing that in the second half, this was a highly important game for the Celtics to pull out and win for even later on down the road, just to preserve the legs of the Celtics. But a good first round series for the Celtics to have, just in terms of confidence. I would say they certainly played a different style throughout part of this series. Certainly in this last game, in Game 5, only shooting 6 3-point attempts in that first half. The Celtics play a different style in this series, and now they can feel comfortable that, hey, if a team like Oklahoma City or Minnesota or another team out there takes away some of our best ability, in which is 3-point shooting and volume, if another team takes that away, we know we can look back to the Orlando Magic series and go, this is how we won in this series, and we can go back to that. Wasn't the prettiest of series, wasn't the prettiest of games for the Celtics tonight, but the fact the Celtics came out with the win and did so in the manner in which they did, closing the series out strong, closing the third quarter strong, closing the fourth quarter strong, especially after all series long, not really closing too many quarters strong all series. That is a tremendously positive note moving forward, and I'm excited to see what's ahead for the Celtics team, because it feels like after tonight, there's still another level to reach, knowing some of the defenses in front of the Celtics, they're just not going to be as good as this Orlando Magic defense.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned energy, like you mentioned energy of the Celtics and how they were really behind them, and I think the fans are kind of waking up. I think when Banchero got those fouls and brothers got into with Mosley, and there's just a lot of animosity, like that really gave the Celtics that little boost, because the fans got behind brothers. He got behind the Banchero getting fouled out, and that just kind of gave the Celtics players another level that they could go to. So I think that was important, and it just speaks on how important energy is in the playoffs. I also want to say it's impressive that Banchero, absent of the lineup, how much of an impact it made on the team, and it just speaks volumes on Banchero's level of play and his capabilities of in the future. And I think it's definitely something that, not that we should be nervous about, but it's definitely something that we have to be wary of and be like, man, we got Banchero coming up and it's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with for a while, unfortunately. And then finally, I just think it was nice to see Brown just continuously attacking the rack and not settling, and it just shows that his athleticism, his knee he's feeling good. And the Celtics are just taking what the Magic gave them, and they didn't force anything. They didn't really try to play outside of their game in that third quarter, and that is why they had such a successful third quarter, allowing them to just pick up momentum and really carry it out for the rest of the game. So it's just nice to see the Celtics be able to have a maybe not their typical first half, but still find a way to get back into the game and find their rhythm and not stray away from what makes them successful.
Yeah, I love the point you made about Jaylen Brown attacking the rack. I thought in the second half, really once Banchero got hurt, I think Boston got out running a little bit. They got some easy points there, and the game kind of sped up a little bit. And then I think Orlando kind of went into like turtle shell defense mode, and they started putting up some tough shots and some bad shots and kind of steered away from what was working for them. And then from an offensive standpoint, that's when Boston's spacing, just everything opened up. It was like, okay, we're going to get out and run. Those quick points led to bad shots from Orlando. Those bad shots from Orlando led to Orlando starting to collapse on defense and start helping, and the Boston spacing was there. And then you got Tatum knocking down these threes, then Pritchard, and then Hauser, and then it was never enough for Orlando. And then it got to a point where I think Orlando kind of looked up at the scoreboard and thought to themselves, we're down 15, we're down 17. And then from there, it was Boston just attack. And then eventually Orlando looks up and they're down 34 and there's nothing they can do about it. And I think those series, right, that kind of between the getting out and running and then Orlando taking bad shots and then Boston applying the pressure offensively and knocking down a couple threes, sent Orlando into kind of turtle mode and got them uncomfortable. And from there, the second Orlando got uncomfortable is the second Boston just absolutely flooded them.
Yeah, and just to read some more stats here on the third quarter real quick, 11 of 17 from the Celtics from the field, 6 of 22 from the Magic, 0 of 11 from 3 from the Magic in that third quarter.
Yeah.
But you notice the Magic, they took half of their shots from 3 that quarter, which is a little uncharacteristic, which goes to your point, Rob, of them taking bad shots. So they're going away from what they're typically comfortable with. They take half of their shots from 3. They go 0 of 11. They don't, and one of the things in which the Magic pride themselves on is getting to the free throw line. They only get themselves to the free throw line twice in that third quarter. And the Celtics, they get themselves to the free throw line 11 times in that third quarter, shooting 9 of 11 from the free throw line, missing 2. But the Celtics from 3, I mentioned the Magic were 0 of 11 from 3. The Celtics were 5 of 8 from 3 in that third quarter. And Jason Tatum, I'm sure we're going to talk about him more later, because 13 points in that third quarter, 4 of 4 from the line, 3 of 4 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3, nearly a flawless quarter for JT, a plus 23 along with Al Horford. Peyton Pritchard was a plus 21 in that third quarter. So just reading some of these plus minuses, I know you shouldn't put a ton of stock into plus minus, but when you read it on a quarterly basis and guys are playing 7 to 12 minutes here, that plus 21, that plus 23 is certainly impressive within a lineup. And just seeing some of the Magics, you see Paolo Banchero obviously in that third quarter only plays 2 minutes and 14 seconds. And that made all of the difference, because after him, he had 2 points in that third quarter. After him, Franz Wagner led the way, 6 points for the Magic in that third. And then you have Wendell Carter with 2, and then you have Jonathan Isaac with 3. And that makes up the entirety of the 13 points for the Magic in that third quarter. And you also see 4 turnovers for the Magic in the third quarter. The Celtics 0 turnovers in the third quarter. And that was something that was actually huge for the Celtics in that third quarter as well. Just knowing in the first half, the Celtics, they were at a disadvantage from the turnover battle perspective, 9-4. The Magic, even seeing the shot attempts here, the Magic still took more shot attempts in that third quarter than the Celtics, 22-17. But it was so big in this series for the Magic to win all those little margins, win all those little hustle stats, especially getting to the free throw line and the turnover battle, the second chance points battle, the field goal attempt battle, all of those little tiny battles within the game of basketball and statistics. But the turnover battle in particular, 9-4 in the first half, the Celtics are down at half, and then in the third quarter they don't go out. They go out there and they don't commit a turnover. So just looking at the numbers there, I mean, obviously we know the reason as to why the Magic fell apart. It was the absence of Banchero, and then just the slew of Celtics offense. And Rob, you mentioned it, the Celtics got out and ran, put some pressure on the Magic, and then the crowd. That's where gotta give the TD Garden crowd some credit tonight. We're always talking about, oh, are they the same? Because all these season ticket holders are different. And Andrew, I don't even know how you got the thumbs up just now. They got the thumbs up. Did you see that? But exactly, like a thumbs up to this TD Garden crowd tonight, because we're always picking on them for not being as I mean, I guess it's nostalgia. It's nostalgia, like knowing from the past. We're like, oh, the past was, all this ruckus from the crowd and all this trash talk and all this rambunctiousness, and now it's like, oh, everybody in there is paying $400 for a ticket. It's like, I'm just gonna sit down and be quiet here. I'm not gonna say anything. But hey, the crowd in that third quarter, I'll say, they certainly got behind the scenes, and they were a part of that run, and they were part of applying the pressure to the Magic, because you noticed at a certain spot in that third quarter, and they were panning to Paolo Banchero on the bench, because they knew once that run was happening, it was like, oh, boom, pan to him on the bench.
He looked like he checked out right then and there. He looked like,
but it was such a moment of hopelessness for him and the Magic. Like we've seen that before in the past as Celtics fans. In the distant past, these Cleveland Cavaliers series, the 2015 first round series against the Cavaliers, the series against the Hawks in 2016, the series against the Cavs again in 2017, where you just have these moments where LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, they're going insane, and you're just sitting there going, I don't know what to do. Cleveland's home crowd is going crazy. These guys are on. They're chest bumping. They're clapping hands. They're high fiving. They're going crazy. And It's like, we can't even get a bucket. We can't even get a stop. Like, how do we even do it? Like, everything is just collapsing. It's an avalanche. And that's what it felt like for the Magic. At some point in time, it was just a hopeless effort in that third quarter. And the crowd, I'll say big kudos to the crowd tonight, because they certainly showed up for the moment, as the Celtics did on court. And it made for yet another classic playoff moment, but it also made part of the difference within this game, especially in that third quarter.
It did. Franco, I'm sorry. It looked like you had something to say before we go into Jason Tatum here.
Oh yeah, well, I was just gonna bring up that once this game came back to Boston, I knew that it was gonna be hard for this series to not end in a gentleman's sweep. The energy around TD Garden, especially around playoff time, really has an effect on such an emotional team like the Boston Celtics, led by Joe Mazzulla, who's a very big momentum energy guy, and it was just a different energy that is almost impossible to stop for the Celtics in the playoffs. When TD Garden erupts for the first time, it's really hard to quiet them down. And to piggyback off of what Seamus said with the fans, I think the fans did a great job tonight. It's very hard for the true passionate fans like us and a lot of Celtics Nation to get into the stadium, but if they are, use the SeatGeek Celtics Weekly. We'll take $20 off. Green for
It's the
good
code,
tickets,
folks.
red for bad, but it's hard to find that many green tickets when your bank account looks like ours over here on Celtics Talk Weekly. But it was just a really hard fought game that I saw Orlando bring that fight to the Celtics at the beginning, but during those struggles when the ball was getting turned over in the first quarter, Orlando was able to stride out to a little bit of a lead. I knew that it was going to be a little bit short-lived, and obviously the Celtics were going to battle their way back into the game. If the Celtics or if the Magic were able to continue out their defensive prowess that they played with in the first half of tonight's game, I think we could be looking at a closer game and probably more of a nail biter to end this series. But even with Boncaro, if per se Boncaro only had a couple of fouls and was comfortably in that third quarter, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference. Obviously, the defense was rearranged for the Orlando Magic, but other than that, I just think that the Celtics were inevitable to get that hot streak from the offensive end.
They were. We were waiting for it.
That's an interesting take, Franco.
Yeah, I mean, you just knew Joe Mazzulla. Like, going into half, too, it's like Joe Mazzulla's not stressed, and he's probably looking at his guys like, hey, we didn't hit a lot of threes. We didn't really necessarily get what we wanted, but they're going to fall. We're going to find a way to get back to our game, So I'm sure the Celtics just had the utmost confidence going into that third half, and that's also a reason why they found success.
Well, talking more on that, just add another stat to the second half and the barrage from the Celtics. So the Celtics in terms of their points, where their points came from in the first half, 68% of the Celtics' points in the first half came inside the paint. Now in the second half, the Celtics, if you look, they shot 38 times in the second half, the Celtics did. 18 of those shots came from three-point land. So a much different look for the two halves. You have in the second half, you take more shots from three than two, or I guess hold up. So no, you take two less threes. So you take 22s, 18 threes in the second half. So it's a much more balanced attack, but obviously those 3-point shots are very prevalent in that second half. But in the first half, the Celtics, they score 68% of their points from the paint in the first half, 68%. And then in terms of the 3-point attempts, the Celtics shot 38 shots in the first half as well. So 38 for both halves. In the second half, 18 3-point attempts, hit 13 of them. In that first half, only 6 3-point attempts, hit none of them. So you're looking at the first half, you have 32 twos to 6 threes. And in the second half, you have 20 twos to 18 threes, which we all know, looking at the box score for the Celtics all season long, they're more on that second half line of 22s to 18 threes. They've never been a team to shy away from 3-point shots, but as you can see, this game certainly can be termed a tale of two halves, right? We hear it all the time in NBA history, a tale of two halves, and in all of sports as well. A tale of two halves, certainly a good what do you call it for this one? A good title of the book, title of the story, a good term to use for this
Was that
game
math
tonight.
done out by pen just then, or were those stats already pulled up for you? Because I saw that you had to get some numbers crunched right there.
Well, I have,
On the spot.
if you really want to know, I have like 3 sheets that I look at, and then I have the digital box score up, and then, and then I have all the sheets from the first couple games to look at as well. So I have everything from the first couple games just to go back and pull something from game 1 or game 2 or any of those. But then I have 3 sheets that I look at just generally. You gotta, to me, throughout the game, I always want to note throughout the game, like what happened in different periods. Because by the time we get on post game, we talk and ramble on for an hour and a half. It's like, oh, but so we're 50 minutes in right now. Something that happened in the first quarter. I mean, it happened 3 hours ago. It's like,
Sure.
oh,
Right.
I gotta write it down. I mean, even the 68% thing, I wrote that down from what Scal said, and he said something. The team record for points scored inside the paint in terms of percentage of points that come inside the paint is somewhere in the 50s. See, and that's just something I wrote down from the standpoint of I didn't hear the actual number, but I knew it was in the 50s, and I have it written down right here. So anyway.
I just want to touch on that too, because you're sitting there at halftime and you're looking at the box score in Boston's 0-6 from behind the arc, and you look at the score and they're only down 2.
Yeah.
And this is the second time all season that a team had not made a single 3-point attempt in the first half. Other time being, I believe, April 9th, Dallas. I don't know who they were playing, but I believe on the NBC Sports broadcast, they told us Dallas did it against Oklahoma City, I want to say. That could be that the team is, I forget. But, I mean, you're sitting there and they're only down 2, and you're thinking like, okay, well, from a win standpoint, this is still a very winnable game. You're assuming they're not going to follow up a 0 donut half from behind the arc with another donut half. So you figure they'll at least maybe double what they did, right? I guess in math terms, that would still be 0, but you guys know what I mean.
CTW University. I got a broadcasting degree. I'm a dumbass. Don't worry.
Math has never been my strong suit, but you know what I mean. And exactly how it went down. It's a classic elimination game at home. Close first half. I mean, it reminded me of like Game 7 against Philly back in 2023, where the first half was close. Halfway through the third quarter is like Philly's last kind of punch. Boston withstands it, and then Boston throws their, right hook, haymaker punch that just knocks the other team out, and it's exactly what went down tonight. And the catalyst for that, and I can't wait any longer to talk about this guy because I am just so impressed with what I saw. Guys, Jason Tatum, and let's throw up the celebration real quick before we get into the stats. But the new wrist celebration. Shout out rookie Baylor Shireman who came up with that. Tatum talking about that in the post game presser for Game 4. You guys, real quick, you guys a fan of this new celebration? I dig it. I'm not gonna lie.
I like it. I would go as far as to say I love it. I mean, it's good.
I like it.
Real good.
It's different, it stands out.
Especially in this series. Like, we all know where it comes from. Like, oh, you're going to hit my wrist. So my wrist is injured. It's like, yeah, see this wrist? I'm still scoring on y'all. I'm still dominating y'all with this wrist.
Yeah, I like it.
Like, keep holding that wrist.
The way you described it, Seamus,
it's a fire celebration, guys. Before we talk about Game 5, Tatum, let's talk about Tatum in the 4 games he played against the Orlando Magic. 31.3 points per game, 11.3 rebounds per game, 5.3 assists per game, 1.5 steals, shooting 45 from the floor, 36 from deep, in a career best series best 90% from the free throw line, guys. Jason Tatum was absolutely dominant against the Orlando Magic in those 4 games he played. Now let's look into the SeatGeek player spotlight. Spoiler alert, it's Jason Tatum. Guys, Franco mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to mention it one more time here. There is no better time to catch the Boston Celtics live right now than
the energy.
then it is right now, right? It's like Seamus said, keep that TD Garden energy going up. And Franco was saying, guys, use SeatGeek, the best ticketing app out there on the market, to catch the Boston Celtics live anywhere where they may be playing. Guys, at checkout, Franco said it, use code Celtics Weekly for $20 off your first purchase. A huge shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring the post-game show. Guys, let's talk about Jason Tatum tonight. I mean, the guy was absolutely phenomenal. A little stat here. The only Celtics to average 35 plus points in 3 straight playoff games. Jason Tatum joining the legend Larry Bird. Guys, Tatum tonight, 35 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, 1 steal, 10 of 16 from the floor, 4 of 5 from deep. I just want to say this real quick on Jason Tatum before I get your guys' thoughts. This was supposed to be the best and was probably the best defensive matchup we might see all postseason. Well, Jason Tatum just made them look like a G League team. And I had never seen, probably over the course of a full outside of game 1 playoff series, Jason Tatum dominate as well as he dominated the Orlando Magic. Guys, right now, in my eyes, Jason Tatum might just be the best player in these NBA playoffs. With Tatum playing like this, you look at it, no Holiday. Porzingis was essentially a non-factor. The Celtics behind Jason Tatum were absolutely able to walk past the league's second best defense in this series and in this game 5. Tell me a little bit about what you guys saw from Jason Tatum.
Is that it? I think that's it. I'll get it down, but
does he do the 3 too? Like this? Was it right? Well,
yeah.
I don't know. This.
Yeah, I think it's
which way? See, I feel like there's a wrong way.
He does the Dirk.
Might go over.
Right? He goes like that. There.
We'll figure it out as we see it a couple more times.
There it is.
It's a little new, but let us.
You guys digging the playoff commercial, by the way? How about we have the other celebration in the playoff commercial. Have you guys seen that?
What
the where like the kiss is in the playoff commercial, and there's different fans, and then like the Boston fans. It's like the most typical looking Boston fans in the world, and they stand up. They're like, "Oh, nobody's seen that. Nobody knows what I'm talking about."
I've seen it.
I wish I could name the song right now. We're kind of showing our age right now, not being able to know this song, but we'll get it.
Too old or too young for us?
No, it's like when I saw the song put out there for this commercial, I was thinking that's got to be for a little bit, like the generation has got to be a little older than ours. I'm not sure if that song is for us. It's like maybe 30s, 40, or like people trying to get them into the NBA circle. But anyway, Jason Tatum, don't let me go off on a tangent about commercials here.
Yeah, well, we're going to be seeing him in a lot more commercials because this playoff series is not just a legacy series for the Boston Celtics, obviously noting all their historical accomplishments alongside the fact that they are running to go back-to-back. But this is a legacy playoff run for Jason Tatum, and round 1 could not have been a better start for him. You saw Jason Tatum playing at nearly, we're not sure if he was at 100% health, and he was still able to contribute at the levels that he was throughout this playoff series. And that's something of concern looking at that wrist, because hopefully that maintains pure health throughout this playoffs, and we probably got through the most physical series that we're going to see if the Celtics do continue to advance in the playoffs in this round 1, and hope that the few days off are instrumental for this team. Obviously, hopefully Jrue Holiday returns back to the lineup for game 1 of round 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals, but Jason Tatum being able to just shoulder that weight, because we saw how important he is on the court for the Celtics. One of the main reasons the Celtics fell behind in that second quarter after gaining that lead back a little bit in the end of the first quarter was it was time for Jason Tatum to sit on the bench, and it seemed like this offense lost its sense of direction during that stretch, and just for it to go right back to where it was when he came back onto the court, obviously leading to that run leading up to the second half and throughout the third and fourth quarters. Jason Tatum just was making key plays for this team and taking a lot of the focus away off these other players. And the Orlando Magic did a good job of taking care of the other players on the Celtics lineup, looking at Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, and Al Horford all in single digits of scoring. That just leaves that open opportunities for your two-star players, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, to absolutely exploit whatever player is guarding them in an isolation look. And on the defensive end, bringing that energy and also vocally, as we noted in the chat before hopping into this post-game show, that this was probably the most verbal and energetic Jason Tatum we've seen in a playoff atmosphere. And to get that out of him is kind of something the NBA and us as Celtics fans have been waiting to get out of this player. Is when are you going to take that confident leap to begin playing and with, I don't want to call it an arrogance, but a swagger to your game where you can talk your smack to the players, tell the Orlando Magic it's time to go home in the fifth, and with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and just being able to carry that out, and also matching that type of talk on the defensive end and bringing it, and also helping this team start off a lot of transitions when that started to happen, when you saw the Orlando Magic start to fall apart. Jason Tatum was just able to exploit that to the fullest ability possible, and is really I'm looking forward to seeing what else Jason Tatum is going to be able to do, because hearing that stat that was brought up earlier about him matching Larry Bird for 35 points and 35 plus points in a consistent playoff game. We had another plug to our show. We had legendary Boston Celtics writer Dan Shaughnessy on the show, and the pinpoint focus of that show was about how the Celtics of the 80s compare to the Celtics of the 2020s. And that conversation is just growing more and more fruitable, because it's just a magical run that we're starting to see from these guys, and no pun intended. And seeing Tatum start to expand into this player that is really setting himself apart makes me back up the feeling of that he is the best player around in this playoff series. And one thing that I would rather Jason Tatum win 10 NBA Finals MVPs than having any regular season MVPs. But I feel like once this playoff series is over, we're going to start to see him getting the respect that he deserves nationally.
Jason Tatum is on a historic list of Boston Celtics players right now. A historic list, because now is the time of the year in which Brown and Tatum really solidify themselves within Celtics history. They've done a lot of great things in the regular season. They've done great things in the past as well in the playoffs. But as the playoffs roll on and as history comes at us, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum every single year they're out there on the floor with the Boston Celtics during the postseason, they have a chance to do something special. And we're seeing that with Jason Tatum right now. Rob, you already mentioned it, but we do have the official Celtics stats tweet here. Jason Tatum is the second Celtic to score 35 points in 3 straight games in playoff history. The other was Larry Bird. So obviously, Rob, you mentioned that earlier. And Jason Tatum just continues to add to his legacy with the Boston Celtics, putting himself in the same conversation as Larry Bird. Only the second Celtic. A little bit of a tongue twister there, especially when you have one tooth, folks, one front tooth. Second Celtic to score 35 plus points in 3 straight playoff games in all of Celtic history, all of NBA history. And then this stat came after game 4. Jason Tatum is the first player in NBA playoff history to record back-to-back games of 35 plus points and 12 plus free throw attempts without a miss. And folks, tonight Jason Tatum didn't quite get to the 12 free throw attempt mark. However, Jason Tatum yet again did reach the 35 plus point mark. And from the free throw line, Jason Tatum, he wasn't too far off of that 12 free throws without a miss, because Jason Tatum tonight took 11 free throw attempts and did not miss one. So I'm very interested to hear the stat on this. Jason Tatum could be the first player ever to go 35 plus points, 11 plus free throw attempts, and without a miss in 3 straight games. I would not be surprised to see Jason Tatum on that list whatsoever. And you just see Jason Tatum is making history in this playoff run for the Boston Celtics, and he's putting himself on a long list of names in which the Celtics, you see here, this is going to be a Tatum and Brown stat here, and this is not really, I mean, yeah, they're stats. You can call these stats, but you just look, this is one that kind of needs to be, kind of need to marinate here for a second, because looking at this list, first of all, Peyton Pritchard at the bottom with 10 playoff series won in Celtics history. So Derek White and Peyton Pritchard at the bottom. Look, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, if the Celtics win this next playoff series against either the Knicks or the Pistons, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, they'll have as many playoff series wins as Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Rajon Rondo. That is just insane. Thinking about the greatness of the early 2010 Celtics. Obviously, they were around for a short period of time, and a couple of injuries throughout time, and just age ruined that team from going on a couple of longer runs than what was to be expected out of that squad. But look at the bottom, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. They're about to pass JoJo White, Gerald Henderson, Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Dave Cowens as well, former MVP Dave Cowens, 2-time champion Dave Cowens, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. They can put themselves up on this list. But you see Jason Tatum already more playoff series wins than Paul Pierce. That's after tonight. That's after tonight. So after the Celtics won tonight in Game 5, Jason Tatum up to 15 all-time. Jaylen Brown 17. Obviously, Jaylen Brown coming in a year ahead of Tatum had those 2 playoff series wins against the Wizards and the Bulls in 2017 that Jason Tatum did not have on his resume. But Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're getting up into elite status here with all the Celtic greats, because you notice in front of Jaylen Brown, look, it's the 1980s Celtics. It's Bird, McHale, Parrish, and the 1960s Celtics are Russell, Havlicek, Sam Jones, Satch Sanders, Don Nelson, a little bit of 70s Celtics there too, and Casey Jones. So this list is just letting it marinate here for a second while I'm talking, just looking at the list. People can look it over. It might be hard to see on a smaller screen, but on TV or a tablet, we'll be able to see it better for sure. This is just a legendary list of players, and it really puts into perspective. Franco, you mentioned the Celtics team doing something very historic right now and doing something very special. It highlights that to the fullest of extents, noting that Brown, Tatum, Horford, even Derek White and Peyton Pritchard down there, they are putting themselves into the elite status of Celtics history amongst some of the greats. And this is a stat that matters. Playoff series won. Playoff series won. In the playoffs, it's all about winning or losing. Forget all the points, the rebounds, the assists, all the gaudy numbers, right? When it comes to the postseason and the Celtics, it's about winning ball games and winning championships. And this is a stat right here that really puts into perspective how special this iteration of the Boston Celtics are, and certainly a man that has to do a lot with that, is Jason Tatum, and he's highlighted on that list of players as well. 15 playoff series wins already since 2017 for the Boston Celtics, and Jason Tatum, of course, 17 for Jaylen Brown. But Jason Tatum, looking at just the stat line tonight, you could tell he had a good game, but you really have to watch the film on Jason Tatum to really appreciate how awesome he was in this series and how awesome he was tonight. Because Tatum, the entirety of the series, well, the Orlando Magic, they were playing physical with the Celtics' two best stars. They were playing physical with the Celtics in general. And from that, well, who's taking on the most usage, the most load on the Celtics? It's Brown, it's Tatum, and particularly Jason Tatum with the ball in his hands. You saw Jason Tatum's playmaking didn't really come out too much in this series because the Magic wanted to take that away, and they wanted to let Tatum and let Brown attack them one-on-one in this series and physically go at them. And that's exactly what Tatum and Brown did. And particularly Tatum, obviously Brown had himself that 36-point game 2 with Jason Tatum out of the lineup. But once Jason Tatum came back in, 35, 36, 30, like 30-point game. We already mentioned the stats in this series. 31 points per game in this series, and he's doing it against one of the best defenses in the league, a defense that's being ultra physical on him, a defense that is openly targeting him at certain moments of games. KCP with the push, we got Anthony Black with the swipe down. We have moments where did the Orlando Magic try to cross the line without making it look like it? Maybe a couple times. Obviously, we saw some injuries out of the Celtics this series, and Jason Tatum, that's where that wrist celebration comes from, as we were mentioning earlier. But Tatum, to really appreciate the game, you got to watch the film because just looking at his stat line, yes, it's impressive. Oh, yeah, Jokic like stat line, 35, 8, and 10. But to really watch the game, you realize Jason Tatum, the amount of load he's taking on for the Celtics and the amount of physicality he's going up against with the Magic in front of him, that is a lot to take on and a lot to bear within this series, especially knowing the Celtics team prides themselves on being a balanced scoring attack. Well, this series, we saw the moments of balance for the Celtics, no doubt. And the Celtics had, let's face it, more balance to the Magic this entire series. But Tatum Brown took on major roles in scoring and ball handling within this series. They're going to do that throughout the playoffs, but particularly it was needed in this series. And Tatum and Brown, and Tatum in particular, we're talking about him with player spotlight tonight. I mean, he came through on a legendary level. When you're putting yourself into the same conversation as a guy like Larry Bird, the guy behind me right here, one of the highly regarded as one of the best Celtics of all time, at least a top 2 Celtic of all time. I know Bill Russell, he has his case for the best Celtic of all time out there, but Larry Bird, clearly a top 2 Celtic ever. When Tatum is putting himself in the same conversation as a guy like Larry Bird in a playoff setting, especially against this Orlando Magic opponent, I know people will look at it later on down the line and go, "Oh, the Orlando Magic, it was 7 seed. They took them out in 5 games." They'll look past this playoff series, but we know within this entire series how physical the Magic were and how hard nosed that Magic team was when it came to defending, particularly Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And for Jason Tatum to do this in this series, a lot of people around the NBA will look past it because it's a 5-game series. It's a 2 versus 7 matchup. And it's Jason Tatum who, let's face it, he's been doing this for a long time already now this season. He's been doing this a lot this season. A lot of people will look past it, but Jason Tatum, this is yet another impressive mark on his resume in many different aspects. Just because obviously just the playoff setting alone, but you see the rebounding in this series, super elite from Jason Tatum. The getting to the free throw line, hitting all of his free throws. He was 14 of 14 last game, 11 of 11 in this game, and I believe in game 3, he was also 12 of 12, 13 of 30, somewhere around there. The getting to the line, the making of the free throws, the rebounding in this series, and then finally we saw, the playmaking came along in the second half tonight. It wasn't there throughout most of the series, but the playmaking came along in the second half tonight. The ultra efficiency from Jason Tatum, it was just your perfect superstar performance, and it was your perfect moment of your superstar putting their head down and just going to work and grinding out a series in which the Celtics absolutely needed Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to grind out, because let's face it, at certain moments in the series, it felt like, oh, the Magic, could they break through here? Oh, could they force a game 6? Could they force the Celtics to go ahead and fly down to Orlando again? Certainly so. And yet Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, giving Jaylen Brown a major shout out here too, because just in terms of what both of those guys did, it was ultra impressive for the Celtics. And at the end of the day, obviously all the role players and the depth helped for the Celtics, but the star performances at the top, it matched Boncaro, it matched Franz Wagner from Tatum and Brown. Tatum and Brown matched those guys, and they did ever more so in this series. And the star discrepancy was very clear at the end of the night, especially when the Celtics walk away with a 31-point victory in a game where Jason Tatum just misses out on a triple-double by 2 rebounds. 2 rebounds, folks. Not a, I'll say triple doubles, a little overrated out there. Yeah, it doesn't really matter as long as you win the game, as long as your star player, gets his numbers and gets his check at the end of the day as well. That's what's important. But Jason Tatum, he achieved all of that and more tonight for the Celtics, and I'm expecting Jason Tatum to play like this moving forward. We see the wrist. That was a little bit of a worry, a worry earlier on in the series, thinking, oh, he misses game 2. What's he going to look like coming back in game 3? Well, game 3 comes back 35 points, and ever since then, never went under the 30-point mark after a rough game to start the series. Misses the second game of the series, and then the rest of the series takes off into turbo mode, and that's the Tatum in which we're used to seeing, and the Tatum in which I think we'll see for the rest of the NBA playoffs, as long as Jason Tatum is, of course, healthy. Wait. There we go. I'm like, that other piece of wood wasn't as loud. I was like, hold up. There we go. That's all I got to say, folks. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, so obviously the stats. I mean, he played super efficient tonight. He got to his spots. He was able to break down defenders with ease. I mean, it honestly looked like they were like cones out there, and he was just getting to where he wanted to go. But I think the word that I want to use is leadership. I think Tatum has really stepped into the role of being a leader on this team. When he got injured, he came back. He didn't let the injury get to him. And he came back and he dropped this amount of points. He showed what he's capable of. But he also, the Magic were roughing him up a lot during the series. They were trying to get under his skin, and his ability to stay composed through it all gave the Celtics that little edge that they needed, and it just allowed the entire team as a whole to really stay even-keeled and not let the Magic kind of rough them up and change their style of play and let them and force them into retaliation. So I think Tatum, just as a player as a whole, as a leader, has shown so much growth, and his maturation process has been something really, really cool to witness. Because I think even in these games, he's focused less on the refs. He's more focused on just winning and focused on the task at hand. And I think that it has really, really given the Celtics just an extra boost, and allows the Celtics to handle these games and not let teams kind of shift them away from what they want to do in a series.
If Jason Tatum is playing like this, forget about it. I mean, seriously, you got no chance against the Celtics if Tatum is going to continue to do what he's done against Orlando and carry this over. With Drew not playing and Kristaps really being non-existent and Jaylen Brown being, for the most part, almost at full strength, it looks like he's kind of almost there. Forget about it. You don't have a chance. Tatum was dominant in every facet of the game. He was the best offensive player. He was probably the best rebounder. He was the best passer. He was truly the best at every single category this series. If he continues to do this, then I don't see a world in which Jason Tatum allows the Boston Celtics to lose a series or even go down in a series. Again, knock on wood. We'll have to wait and see. But Tatum's game is so elevated right now and is so sound. And Andrew, I love the point you make on, you can tell with Tatum that he's matured so much. He fully understands at the task at hand and what needs to be done. And you saw that this series, I think it's going to creep up even more. We talk about experience moving forward. You're going to see a Knicks team with less experience. You're going to see either an Indiana team or Cleveland in the next, or sorry, you might see Detroit. Shouldn't count out Detroit yet. Game 6 back at home. Right.
Don't
Yeah.
let Justin
Right.
do
Yeah.
that. Don't let Justin.
Shout out,
Yeah,
Coach,
yeah.
shout out
My fault,
Coach
my
AJ.
fault.
If we had him on a podcast, maybe we'll have him on again.
Well,
if
if,
Oh, yeah.
if Detroit gets through, Justin, if you're hearing this, you are coming on, whether you like it or not, for the Celtics series.
We're going to we're capturing them and we're bringing them on the show. But whoever you see, you're gonna have more experience. And to me, what popped up the most at times this series, outside of Orlando's just amazing defensive scheme, was experience. It popped up again. You saw it tonight. The second Orlando adversity struck and Paulo went down, they were not built and did not know what to do once their best player went down. We've seen it. Game 7 against Miami back in 2023. That exact same thing happened to us in a sense where our best player goes down and the other guys, and Brown talked about it on the Celtic City finale documentary where, you know, in a time in which he needed to be the guy, he fell short of that and he learned from that. So from an Orlando perspective, you're going to learn from that. But from a Celtics perspective, unfortunately, we've already dealt with that. And now we get the benefits of taking advantage against those teams who haven't been there. And I look at the rest of the East and I see Tatum is the best. Jason Tatum is the best player in the Eastern Conference right now. We can establish that with Giannis failing to get past the second round, with Joel Embiid fizzling out. Yes.
Goodbye.
Like Jason Tatum is the top dog in the Eastern Conference right now. I've been on the record about this coming into the playoffs. The only player in a series that we play against where I'm not confident that Jason Tatum is the best player on the floor is Nikola Jokic. Outside of that, Jason Tatum is 9 times out of 10 probably the best player on the floor on any given night, on both ends of the floor against every other team in the NBA. I don't care if it's Anthony Edwards. I don't care if it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't care if it's Donovan Mitchell. I do not care. Jason Tatum is probably the best, one of the best players on the planet next to Nikola Jokic, and he is the best player in the Eastern Conference right now. And he plays for the best with the best supporting cast in the NBA. And you look at that, you put those two things together. Tonight was, in my opinion, a huge spark. And I say spark because it felt like this is so dry, right? It was like you're going to be going into this next series off of just a poor offensive performance, a slugfest. You can never catch a rhythm. And then right in that second half, Tatum and the Celtics, they catch fire. And that's beautiful because the next game they play, the last half of basketball, was their best half of basketball in the series. And I love that moving forward, guys, as we look past Orlando and look at a potential series against either Detroit or New York, even though it probably, best guess, I wouldn't be shocked if Detroit won game 6, but my gut's telling me the Knicks are going to go back on the road and capture game 6 to eventually go on to play the Boston Celtics, which I'm hoping real quick. It's like last year we were robbed of a Celtics Knicks Eastern Conference Finals. And in 2022, it wasn't possible, but it feels like we've just been robbed. When was the last time they played? 2013, that first round. It's like, I need a Celtics versus Knicks, New York, Boston NBA playoff series. I need it. I need it. And New York, please take care of business in game 7. You can lose game 6, but take care of business in game 7 at the very least.
The one time we may root for the Knicks, but even so, we're not rooting for the Knicks.
Yeah, like
whatsoever.
not yet. Game 7, I'll root for the Knicks. Game 6, yeah, but one more game, please.
No, I was talking about this with Franco the other day. I believe me and you were talking about it, Franco, where the Celtics so in 2023, the Celtics made the conference finals, but then the 8 seed Heat beat the Knicks, who were a 4 or 5 seed. I believe they're a 5 seed, if I'm not mistaken. They beat the Cavs in round 1, the Knicks did. And then it was Knicks Heat. The Knicks go down in 5 games to the Heat. And so that's the first iteration where we miss out on Celtics versus Knicks, a playoff series, because the Heat, as an 8 seed, beat the Knicks. The next year, it looked like Knicks up 3-2 against the Pacers. It looked like, oh, Celtics, Knicks, here we go again.
Finally.
And then the Pacers win game 6 and win game 7, and we face the Pacers. And then this year, Knicks up 3-1. I would say, I will say this. If the Knicks lose, I'll be a little upset that we yet again miss out on a Celtics-Knicks playoff series. But the pure comedy that would come out of the Knicks not being able to reach the Celtics 3 years in a row, that's got to be a little worth it if the Knicks do go ahead and lose this series against the Pistons. Now,
It might as well
out
be
of all
Philly.
the series, I will say, out of all the 3-1 series right now, that is probably the series in which you could see the team down 3-1 come back because the margins have been so slim. Lakers Wolves series, I feel like the Wolves have just been the better team. They've had more depth. The LeBron's 40, Luka's out of shape. The Lakers don't have a big. There's a bunch of obvious things with the Lakers, unfortunately, that are holding them back against the Wolves, who are just a terrible matchup. Obviously, the Cavs Pace or not the Cavs Pacers. Cavs Pacers series is coming up on the horizon, but the Pacers Bucks series that went final. That 3-1 series, and then this the Knicks Pistons. You could see okay the Pistons the margins have been so slim. The matchup has been very close to the point. The Pistons they grabbed Game 5 already in New York. Maybe they can grab Game 6. Back at home, and then Game 7, all bets are off. The other 3-1 series too. It feels like the Warriors just have more experience than the Rockets at this point. The Rockets are just a mess down the stretch. But that is a series we'll have to see moving forward. It'll be interesting because if that series does go 7, that Knicks Pistons series, the Celtics they'll have at least until next Monday off. If that series goes 7, if that series goes 6, I'm speculating it'll probably be Saturday or Sunday, most likely Sunday. They play the Knicks if the Knicks do win Game 6. But just talking more on the Celtics Magic series before we do close the entire book on it. This is a series in which, unfortunately, for the Magic, oh, here we go. A little delayed on my end. Here we go. Sean Grandy, our guy for tweets there. Sean Grandy, play-by-play announcer, just phenomenal on the radio, by the way. 98.5 calls all the Celtics games alongside Cedric Maxwell. Also heard Brian Robb next to him the other day for the Celtics game 4, if I'm not mistaken. But Sean Grandy here providing another tweet here for us. Celtics playoff series scoring margin. So this is this is all time. So this isn't from a specific year or from a specific time frame of years. It's from all time. Plus 12.8 scoring margin versus the Magic in this series. That ranks 5th all time in Celtics playoff series scoring margin history. 5th. Does that not seem ridiculous? After this entire series, right, where we think, oh, it's relatively close in Game 1. Yes, 17-point win. Game 2 is a 9-point win. That one feels close. Obviously, the Celtics lose Game 3 by 2. Game 4 is a 9-point game again. And then Game 5, a 31-point game, puts the scoring margin at plus 12.8 for the Celtics. That's a crazy stat. I'll say that's a pretty crazy stat right there. The fact this series is 5th all time in scoring margin for the Celtics, and I'm telling you, this is why you got to watch the film, folks. This is why you got to go back and read the articles. You can't just fill in NBA history via the numbers and narrative, because sometimes you can get it wrong. This Orlando Magic series was physical. It was tough. It was hard on the Celtics. Yet people 50 years from now, 25 years ago, or sorry, 25 years from now, looking back 25 years ago into at this point in time, they'll look at the scoring margin and go, oh yeah, the Celtics, they blew out the Magic in this series. It didn't really feel like that on court, but within the analytics, the numbers, the scoring margin tells a different story. And also we have this stat here, again from Sean Grandy. The Celtics trying to make some new franchise history tonight. So this was tweeted before tonight's game, and obviously knowing the Celtics won tonight's game, that in mind, reading this tweet. Not only have they now won 22 of their last 27 playoff games, something no Celtics team has ever done, a win tonight would be the Celtics' 5th consecutive series win in 5 games or fewer. That's never happened either. So, obviously the Celtics win tonight. They win yet another playoff series. But that you see here the stat at the bottom, most wins in a 27-game span. I believe we pulled this out after Game 1 or Game 2, but recalibrated stat here from Sean Grandy. Most wins in a 27-game span in the NBA playoffs in history. The Celtics 22-5 between 2023 and 2025. And I'll just note every team on this list, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Pistons, the Bulls twice, and then the Cavs, all won championships within their stretches, as well as the Celtics here, and obviously last year in 2024. So the Celtics, again, just making more history, putting themselves on a historic list of teams, putting themselves in great company, I'll say, just knowing all the history in which goes into these statistics right here. Now let's show up another one here up on screen. Yes, this will be the last one from Sean Grandy. This is the 8th time in 9 years the Celtics have won a playoff series. So 8th time in 9 years. So the only series, let's see, 9 years, looking 9 years ago, what, 2015-16? They didn't win a playoff series that year. So 2015 didn't win a playoff series. 2016 didn't win a playoff series. And then after that, won a playoff series every single year after that. But 2021 did not win a playoff series. That's the year actually that's missing in here. So 2021, Celtics lost to the Nets in round 1. Did win a play-in game. I don't know if that counts. Play-in game. Let's count that. Not a playoff series though. 8th time in 9 years the Celtics have won a playoff series. It's just the second time in the last 55 years the franchise has accomplished that. They did it 9 years, from 1980 to 1988, obviously coinciding with the Larry Bird Celtics, the legendary Celtics of the 1980s. And yet another stat that puts into perspective the run in which the Celtics are on right now with this team. They're very on par with Celtics legendary teams of the past, such as those 80s Celtics. And even some statistics and some records you look at, it goes all the way back to the 60s. Obviously, the back-to-back title chase this year for the Celtics goes all the way back to the 60s, 68, 69, the last time the Celtics won back-to-back titles. But hey, this is the 8th time in 9 years the Celtics have won a playoff series, and the second time in the last 55 years the Celtics franchise, they've accomplished that. The Celtics team within the franchise has accomplished that. And the last time was 80 to 88, 9 straight years. And of course, that's the legendary Larry Bird Celtics of the 1980s, 3 championships between 1981 and 1986. So the Celtics certainly in historical rankings here. We do have some more tweets to show later, but I think we'll hold off as we see Rob has exited the building here on Postgame. Exited the building, Rob has.
Classic. It usually happens. You can get like a good hour and a half until the laptop decides that the Wi-Fi is just no longer there. It's
gotta buy those extra minutes. Extra minutes.
You gotta wait. Maybe we'll get a sponsorship from Verizon this offseason. But
Verizon. Who do I even have as a phone carrier right now? T-Mobile. I don't even know. T-Mobile, AT&T. They're all pretty great. They all use the same towers. Come on.
Any of them.
It's America where all the choices are the same.
Well, whatever one you guys want, whatever one wants to sponsor us, we'll use. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoever's writing us the check. You know what? Since we're here, guys, since it's just the 3 of us right now, let's just dive into a couple of more. I only have 2 more tweets to show here, so let's just get through all of them here. Al Horford. We went through blocks last night. Al Horford, 5 blocks last night, put himself in the top 15 all time of blocks in the playoffs. Most blocks in the playoffs. Al Horford in the top 15, as we said last night. But games played in the NBA playoffs. Al Horford, he is putting himself even higher on this list. Now, this is, again, another statistic that stands out here. By just makes your eyes pop. Al Horford surpasses Magic Johnson for playoff games played tonight. Al Horford with his 191st playoff game played tonight, moving into 13th all-time in the playoff games played list. Al Horford moving ahead of Magic Johnson. You see some names behind him there. Magic Johnson, Robert Parrish, Byron Scott, John Stockton, Dennis Johnson, Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan at 19th, and Andre Iguodala. Who do you want taking the last shot? Of course, you want Iggy. You want Andre Iguodala, number 20 there. But the names in front of him: LeBron James, number 1. Just looking at this list, kind of an interesting list. Derek Fisher, number 2. If you would have quizzed me who is number 2 all time in playoff games played, I definitely would not have come up with Derek Fisher. Obviously, looking at his career, was on a lot of great teams, a lot of great winning teams, so I could definitely see it how he plays that many games. But man, I would not have thought that. Tim Duncan, number 3. Robert Ory, number 4, 7-time champion Robert Ory. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 5. Tony Parker, 6. Kobe Bryant, 7. Manu Ginobili, 8. Shaq, 9. Scottie Pippen, 10. Danny Ainge, tied with Karl Malone at 11th. I would not have guessed Danny Ainge, number 11 there. But you see Al Horford at the end of this playoff run, you're likely looking at Al Horford making his way. After this playoff run, Al Horford should. All right, let's do it again,
At
folks.
12 games, if
Should have 193. Should have 193 after this play. After next series, he'll be number 11, solidified on this list. Ainge and Karl Malone there will be 2 Utah guys. I'll say, one off the court, one on the court, but they'll be tied for 12th. And then Al Horford, he'll be up there, solidified at 11. Now let's see, he's what? He's 17 games away from Scottie Pippen right now. So 17 games. So what? That would be, can he make? He can make it there. This playoff run, he can make it there, but that would entail the Celtics. They would need to play. They would need to.
more
They would
games
need to
than
lose
they
some
want
games.
to. Yeah, more
They
games
would need to
than they
lose some
want to.
games, unfortunately. So they wouldn't be able to sweep out. They could play 5-5, 7. That would be maybe a scenario on the line for the Celtics. But Horford, he'll be near the top 10. It'll be interesting to see if he makes his way into the top 10 after this playoff run, if these next couple of series go as far as they do, and if Al
Next year
Horford
if he
stays in the
doesn't.
lineup. Go ahead, Franco.
We'll have him back next year if he doesn't reach it.
Just for this record alone, obviously added to the playoff moment highlight reel tonight as well. Al Horford hitting a couple of big threes, a couple of big shots, I should say, in this game. A big 3 at the end of the third quarter, but Al Horford just continues to be legendary with the Celtics. And now at this point, I believe I saw a stat. We don't have a tweet for this, but I saw a stat earlier that read Al Horford. It's so a player to record 5+ blocks in a playoff game age 38 years or older. It's Al Horford. It was in game 4. And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did it twice. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did it twice in 2 games. And then Al Horford did it in game 4, came up with 5+ blocks, or 5 blocks, I should say, as a 38-year-old or older player. Hey, LeBron James, maybe he could put himself on that list at the age in which he's at this season. But we have one more tweet to show on the night. This one's just kind of fun. This was before last game, if I'm not mistaken, before game 4. Joe Mazzulla's response when Drew Carter asked him if the Magic are going too far with their physicality. Joe Mazzulla with a typical Joe Mazzulla response: no one's been arrested. And by technicality, Joe, I completely agree. Nobody was arrested in this series, so it's all fun and games at the end of the day when Celtics walk out. No injuries, and maybe a couple injuries, as we'll
Couple
get to one
battle
here
scars.
in a second. Okay, yeah, a couple of battle scars,
You
but
can't tell
nothing
Chris
too
that
terrible.
Porzingis that there weren't any injuries. No one got banged up during
Well,
this series. Look
Tatum
at
too. I mean, Tatum has the wrist wrap and the celebration, and Brown the
wrap,
dislocated finger. Yeah, I mean, some injuries for sure, but hey, nobody. Again, you can't say there's a couple of things you actually can't say. I was going to say, hey, nobody out of the lineup, but let's face it, Drew Holiday, he's out of the lineup right now, and he's actually a player I do want to talk about real quick before we end this post-game show, because obviously the Celtics, they win tonight's game, win the series 4-1 over the Orlando Magic. However, they do so mostly without Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, phenomenal in games 1 and 2, and then afterwards, game 3, game 4, game 5, Drew Holiday on the injury report, ruled out early for all of these games with a hamstring injury. Now we've been kind of sweeping this under the rug. We made a couple of videos on it. We spoke about it just a little bit, but we've kind of been throwing it out there like, we really that concerned? We can beat him without Drew Holiday, yada, yada. I'll say this, hamstrings, they're tricky. Anytime you see a player go out with a hamstring, you never know what can happen with them in terms of how long their timetable actually is for return, because those hamstrings, they're extremely volatile when they heal. When a hamstring heals, it's one of those injuries that a commonplace. A lot of players talk about it as, oh, when you're out there running, you can feel it. When you're out there jumping, running, cutting, you can feel your hamstring. You can feel it flare up. But once you sit down, you don't feel it whatsoever. It feels completely fine. And then once you ramp up yet again, it starts to flare up and it starts to hurt. And that's what Drew Holiday could potentially be dealing with right now with this hamstring. We don't know the full extent of Drew Holiday's hamstring injury. It's been a little bit in the background of Celtics Nation, but as the games go on, as Drew Holiday continues to sit, and he's out of these games early. The injury report, I mentioned it last game too, but it applies for this game 5. Drew Holiday was out as of last night. So coming into today, Drew Holiday wasn't questionable, he wasn't doubtful, he wasn't with a muscle injury, a leg muscle injury, a leg muscle that is notorious for healing a little bit weirdly, not healing all the way, players and training staff not really knowing how to manage it. I'm a little concerned for this Drew Holiday injury moving forward. I'm optimistic for the fact that he just missed 3 games, so he's had a lot of rest time this last week to not be out there, not play on it. And then the Celtics, they're going to have a couple of rest days here moving forward before they go into the semifinals. I'm optimistic from those perspectives, but I'm a little skeptical about the fact Drew Holiday just missed 3 straight playoff games with a muscle injury that is notorious for taking guys out for a long period of time and not really letting them come back to play and into the flow of things the way that they really want to play. What are your guys' concern levels on Drew Holiday right now?
Yeah, I agree with the concern, and I think that, like you said, a hamstring injury, you never know the severity of it, and it's one of those things that lingers, it comes back, and it also comes back in times when you least expect it, and then you're kind of like, dude, not again. It's a frustrating injury, and my hope is that, yes, obviously the Magic, it was a competitive series, they were putting a lot of stress on us, but my hope is maybe there's an understanding that we're gonna rest Holiday. We're gonna see if he can kind of recuperate from that injury, so we will have him, whether we play the Knicks or the Pistons. That's my hope. I don't know, and I'm sure there's speculations around it, but it is obviously concerning. But it's something that you just have to take day by day. And I can't sit here and be like, oh, we're screwed, but I also can't sit here and be like, yeah, we're a-okay, we're in the clear, So it's just one of those things that that they're gonna have to manage, and hopefully he's okay.
Once we get those media passes and we can walk into the Celtics training facility, watch Drew Holiday get off that trainer's table, walk
Right.
over to the basketball court, run up and down the court a couple times, then we'll be able to give you our full analysis on how we think he's feeling from this injury. From what we've seen, I think that it's more of a conservative effort. Obviously, during a series with the Orlando Magic, going into the series that we just got through, I had Drew Holiday as our number one of the key contributors for the Celtics, and missing him made the series a little bit more difficult through these final 3 games. Obviously, didn't help that Tatum was out for that game 2 as well, and game 3 going the way it did, and just being able to not be able to take full exploitation of the mismatches that were at hand. Obviously, Al Horford does a seamless job of filling into the lineup, but with Drew Holiday, there's so many other volatile things that he does on a basketball court, whether it comes to the defense, to his consistency on and IQ on the offensive end, knowing where to be at the right times, making those small effort plays, even just being able to stay within the flow of the Celtics offense. That's where Drew Holiday really stands out and makes the Celtics so much more of a threat. And looking forward to a series with either most likely New York, possibly Detroit. Having him on the court, especially against two teams who are very guard focused, or two start either or New York or Detroit, they are led by all-star level, superstar level guard, whether it's Cade Cunningham or Jalen Brunson. So having him there alongside Derek White can negate that from these teams' offenses. But once again, I don't want to speculate further on this injury. Obviously, a hamstring injury is something that can linger, but the more rest time that he can receive, the better. I would like, ideally, to see him potentially bumped up at least to a questionable status heading into round 2, if not fully available. If not, I don't think it is the end all be all for the Boston Celtics when it comes to a round 2 series, and getting him back at 100% is better. Getting him back, getting him back at 100% in the Eastern Conference Finals, or even worse, the NBA Finals, is much better than getting Drew Holiday back at a 50% or with a yellow or red flag on him about that hamstring injury during a New York Knicks series or Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I don't think this is being talked about enough within Celtics Nation. I think you two both have the right attitudes on this of kind of, hey, we're kind of just gonna have to wait and see here because have rest days. He just took 3 games off. I mean, look, he's gonna have at least a week's worth of rest until he plays his next game. The Celtics got by the Magic just fine. Obviously, there a little bit of a bump there in the road with game 3, but otherwise got by the Magic just fine, especially after this 31-point win tonight. And yes, it's one of those things that you just kind of have to wait and see what happens going into either the Knicks or the Pistons series. We think it's going to be the Knicks, but who knows? Kind of just going to have to wait and see what happens with Drew and how he shows up on the injury report. It's not been a talking point within Celtics Nation because a lot of people believe, well, Celtics, they're able to take out the Magic without Drew Holiday. And that's 100% true. But later on in time, the Celtics are going to need Drew Holiday in a series against a team like the Knicks, in a series against a team like the Cavs, in a series against a team like potentially the Oklahoma City Thunder later on down the line. That could be the potential path of the Celtics. And in those series, the Celtics are going to need Drew Holiday healthy. And I keep saying it. Drew Holiday, everybody kept saying, Porzingis, he needs to be healthy. He needs to be healthy. Porzingis, there are 4 bigs behind Porzingis you could put in. Behind Drew Holiday, there's 1 guard, and it's Peyton Pritchard. Now, I know Griffin, he would say J.D. Davison too, but let's be realistic. It's just Peyton Pritchard. It's just Peyton Pritchard. I'd love for J.D. Davison to take some minutes in the playoffs, but we all know that's unfortunately not happening. And the Celtics, their guard rotation is thin. It's extremely thin after White, Holiday, Pritchard, those 3 guards. The Celtics don't have a 4th or 5th guard to really look at and go to within the rotation, even off the bench. Other teams, they sometimes have that 4th or 5th guard that they feel comfortable with playing, just spot minutes here and there. The Celtics don't have that whatsoever. Did you say Lonnie Walker?
Huh?
Franco, is that what you just said?
The voice.
Is that what I just heard?
The
What I
voice.
just heard?
You're not going to hear the end of that from me. Ever since it's been since the preseason, and it's going to continue on until we are in 2060 talking about the Celtics team, and we're nice and gray and old. And I'm like, the Celtics should have kept Lonnie Walker in that season.
Well, see, I got out my discretion in a post game against the Cavs on December 1st, 2024. All right. My discretion came out against the Celtics and not paying Lonnie Walker. And I understand the bill that it would have came with. I understand the cost, but
They're a multi-billion-dollar franchise.
but exactly, that's number one. But number two, these are kind of the moments when we talk about why we're mad about the Celtics not paying for Lonnie Walker, not paying the back end. And we had an interesting debate about that at the trade deadline. Rob was saying, oh, well, they forked up all the money for the starters, and you can't necessarily blame them for not spending on the back end. But hey, when you're a championship team, you got to spend money on both ends of your roster, all right? You got to go all in, all in. And the Celtics, they definitely they cut corners by not signing Lonnie Walker because obviously Jaden Springer, they couldn't find the Celtics at the beginning of the season. A report came out from I believe Mass Live and Brian Robb that the Celtics were aggressively shopping Jaden Springer and gauging that was the language used. The Celtics were gauging the interest of not Lonnie Walker. I said that earlier this season too. You go back in a postgame. I said that earlier. Crazy. Correcting my mistake this time around. The Celtics were gauging the interest of Jaden Springer, not Lonnie Walker. Jaden Springer, the Celtics were gauging the interest of. The whole reason the Celtics were gauging the interest of other teams when it came to the talent of Jaden Springer is because the Celtics needed to trade away Jaden Springer in order to sign Lonnie Walker to the books without enacting another 10, 11, 12 million dollars to the luxury tax bill, in which the Celtics ownership went, we're not going to pay that extra 10, 11 million dollars for Lonnie Walker because it just seems insane to pay that much for one end of the rotation player who might not even play come playoff time. But let's face it, Lonnie Walker was a talent, and he was in the Euro League this past season, then signed with the Sixers, a rival team who, and let's face it, the Sixers were not doing anything this season outside of competing for a top draft pick. But Lonnie Walker would have been a good addition to this bench. And this is the moment in time. Now, this is a great moment to actually bring it up. This is a great moment in time to bring it up because this is the moment in which it actually comes to bite the Celtics in the ass. When we are sitting there in December, when we're sitting there in January, February, people are looking around going, he's our 10th, 11th man. It's like Cornette, Hauser, Shireman, Craig. They come in every other night and they do their work. And who cares? Lonnie Walker, how much of a difference would he have made? This is the moment in which the difference could have been made, where you have a guy like Drew Holiday miss 3 straight playoff games. This is what concerns me. He was never doubtful, never questionable, nothing. I don't know the status of Drew Holiday for game 1 or game 2 or any game moving forward. What if he tore his hamstring? We don't know. We have a worst case scenario. I always bring out the worst case scenario on here, but that's a thing that could happen. It's like, okay, Drew Holiday could be out way longer than just these 3 games because right now nobody's saying anything about it. It's like, oh yeah, Drew Holiday's out. We'll take care of the Magic, or we're fine. He'll be fine. Just a little bit of rest for Holiday. 3 games and then rest this week going until the semifinal. I'm just not sold on that perspective. 3 straight games, that's a lot in the playoffs, and I'm not convinced that he's just going to be healthy for game 1 right off the bat. I would love to see him healthy for game 1 right off the bat, but there's nothing that convinces me that that's going to be the case. And in this situation, I look at it and go, well, Drew Holiday, he has to be healthy for the Celtics. He is the Celtic. He's one of the Celtics' many X factors on the team, and the guard rotation very thin afterwards, after Drew Holiday, if he were to be out of the lineup as he was in this series. And again, that's where we bring in the discussion of Lonnie Walker's. Lonnie Walker 100% would have brought more to that guard rotation, the depth of the guard rotation, and potentially helped in these moments. Now, we've gone a whole season without him, so we can't just sit here and say, if the Celtics lose moving forward or whatever. We can't say that's the reason, because the Celtics are well prepared without Lonnie Walker to go on this playoff run. However, when we do talk about Lonnie Walker and the ramifications of not paying him earlier this season, not keeping him on the roster. Let's face it, it's not about paying him. It was the minimum. He was on a minimum contract, in which would have sparked more dollars added onto the luxury tax bill for the Celtics just from another salary being on the salary sheet for the Celtics, who are, I believe they're in the second apron. They're either in the first or second apron. I would think that this roster, with how expensive it is in the second apron. But the Celtics not paying Lonnie Walker at the beginning of the season, that's where this moment right now, where Drew Holiday is missing games and we don't know when he's going to come back in the lineup, that's where this Lonnie Walker situation or the Lonnie Walker situation we saw last preseason or this preseason coming into the 24-25 season, that's where you could see it really bite the Celtics in the ass moving forward, is when Drew Holiday misses a bunch of games and we don't have that guard depth behind Drew Holiday. And again, Drew Holiday, I think you guys have the right attitude when it comes to it. It's kind of a wait and see type of thing. And yeah, exactly. 100%. It was a big blow not to keep Lonnie Walker. It is what we're talking about right now. Drew Holiday, it's a wait and see situation, but there's nothing right now that tells me that he's just going to be 100% healthy the next series. And I don't feel like anybody's questioning it either. I mean, he could have a legitimate hamstring injury right now in which everybody's just passing on for rest. Everybody's passing on as just, that we're playing the Magic. No, folks, we're playing in the playoffs. Drew Holiday should be out there.
And like a player like his play style, the way he plays, like you need him fully healthy. You know what I mean? Because he needs to be defensively active. He needs to be able to play on offense. You know.
Salute.
Seamus.
Hey, salute to you.
Seamus. Hey, I guess it looks like my name was out.
What video game was that? I'm blanking on the.
I don't even.
Smash
Bros.
I
have the song from earlier, by the way.
I'm sure it's a different. But
I have the song. It's. Remember the commercials we were talking about earlier? Feels like almost 2 hours. I'm not gonna bring up the commercial, but here we go. We got it's this song by Aerosmith.
Oh, Aerosmith. Yeah, I don't.
How do we not know that? Come on.
Yeah.
No, we know that. Here's the thing: we know this song, but to me, this song definitely, when I'm looking at, marketing, like who are they targeting? Like, maybe a little bit older than our age group. I don't feel like our age group fully appreciaats a band like Aerosmith.
The older generations, they're trying to reel them back in. They're like, we're physical. We have physicality. We want to work.
We have rock bands who advertise the NBA. It's like, bring it back to that. Like back to the 1980s. Like if you go back there, I will say the advertising for the NBA over the years and just in general, there's a whole rabbit hole conversation. But if you go back and watch games in the 70s and 80s, the advertising has completely changed for everything out there. We were talking about Drew Holiday though. I'm like, how do we get on this subject of this?
I don't remember. Seamus. Oh, you brought up the song.
Oh, you said video game and then song and then.
Yeah.
But
it shows how quickly we can get off topic. But back to Drew Holiday, the injury is something I will be concerned about until I hear further notice on it. Mm-hmm. And if I stub my toe, I blame it on the fact that the Celtics didn't sign Lonnie Walker before the regular season begins. Just looking at that series is something that I'm really looking back at it. I really hope that Drew Holiday is healthy, because looking down the road, the series will become a lot more questionable if the Celtics will be able to win. They will be able to win the series without Drew Holiday, but with the same amount of ease is out of question.
100%. And I'm thinking just now, this broadcast tonight, I'm a little down right now because the Orlando Magic, they broke the brooms in Game 3. It's like we just ended this series against the Magic. Like I feel like there should be something special. Like we have like Orlando Magic confetti, or like we have like
we'll save it
ceremonial burning of an Orlando jersey or something.
No. We have respect for New York, or not New York.
Orlando. No, what?
I mean, we definitely were using.
Don't clip that. Don't clip that, chat. But yeah, Orlando, the community of Orlando, have respect for. We had amazing guests on throughout the playoffs. Let's give them their shout outs right now. Bobby Kravitsky.
Whoa! Now he's
No,
Celtics
that was
guy. Ryan
that was
Kaminsky.
guy. Ryan Kaminsky. Oh,
Hey, but our interview with Bobby Kravitsky, go check that out too. A couple months ago.
Okay, yeah, those names are too familiar. But Ryan Kaminsky, Phil Frostman-Reich, Cortez Paul, and then yesterday and airing today, we had Hollywood from the Orlando Magic. They were all such good sports about this series.
That's why I wish we could poke fun at them right now with something at the end of this. This broadcast, but it's like I just don't like. We don't have the brooms. Like
they're going back.
We got their theme song, but
they're going to Disney World, but in the first round, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean,
back
we
to
can
Disney
send
World.
Contavious Caldwell Pope to Cancun. That's best for me. I don't think he scored above 10 points in this entire
First summer for KCP, making over $20 million in the league.
And definitely his last, probably after the performances we've seen from him.
2 more years. 2 more years.
Two more years, but I can see him becoming one of those sign and trade players that just gets dumped by the Orlando Magic. And looking at the Orlando Magic offseason, this is a team that we're going to be talking about probably in next year's playoffs, the year after that playoffs, and who knows, in a few years they might become serious threats to the Boston Celtics if their management goes well. One thing that they talked about was all of them, when we brought up the ideas of the offseason, is getting another player to play alongside Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero, that true point guard that can put up the points and put up decent shooting clips for them. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for them. But I will leave this series peacefully. We did something special for them. We wore the black to their funeral. Such a young team. It died too soon. You
notice we're all wearing black tonight. Literally all of us are.
Yeah, I just think that they took what they could out of the Celtics, which was a lot of physical play, and some of it was a little bit beyond our comfort levels as Celtics fans. But if you're playing against the Boston Celtics, that's what you have to do. You have to do anything within your power to gain any advantage, get under their skin in the slightest bit. And it seemed like they definitely had it during Game 3. There were glimmers of it during Game 4, and then in the first half of tonight's Game 5, you could see that the Magic were able to get on the Celtics skin, but to a point where it really just sparked them to play beyond measures that we weren't expecting to see within round 1. So I think that I'll give full credit to the Magic for bringing this series to the point where it ran.
All right, quick fire before we get off of here. The Celtics, next round. Unfortunately, we were going to do this whole preview thing tonight if some results fell the way in which we thought they were going to fall. But the New York Knicks, they lose to the Detroit Pistons tonight at Madison Square Garden in Game 5, up 3-1 in the series over the Pistons. The Knicks lose. So now that series heads back to Detroit, to the Little Caesars Arena. The Knicks up 3-2 over the Pistons. One of those two teams will be playing the Boston Celtics in the 2025 Eastern Conference semifinals. But from your guys' perspective, quick fire, Knicks or Pistons, who should we want to face? Andrew, we'll start with you.
I'll go Pistons. I'll go Pistons because obviously Knicks. The Pistons are a young squad that has a lot that they want to prove, and they have a bright star in Cade Cunningham and a lot of good pieces. But I just think that the Pistons, from a just from a young team perspective, just in this finals, like they just don't have it guys to match up with the Celtics and compete in a full 7-game series. So that's kind of how I see it. And but also I wouldn't mind seeing the Knicks like we talked about, because I would like to have that playoff atmosphere and have that Celtics Knicks playoff energy once again.
Franco, that was a very ominous get up from you. What do you got for us?
Well, talking about Detroit first, Justin, I love you, but I just can't let that series happen. Anyone knows that I need this New York series more than New York needs it. New York has been talking up my tree. I don't know where he's been. He obviously disappeared during the playoffs because he's got to focus on his own team. But we've had a few people yapping in our comment sections telling us, oh, Boston should be afraid of New York. New York's right on your ass. Look at the standings. Look at the standings. Well, guess what? You guys got locked in probably 2 weeks into the series. I need that New York series more than I need anything else, because just of the pure marketability of it and the fact that we haven't received that series. It's something fresh. That's what is very exciting about this playoff run for the Celtics. It's not the same matchups that we are so accustomed to seeing. It's not that treacherous Miami Heat series. It's not that Milwaukee Bucks series. It's not that Philadelphia 76ers series. It's these new up and rising teams, and the New York Knicks have been gypped of the opportunity. Well, not gypped. They just haven't been good enough to reach the point of advancing past the first round.
Exactly. You got to get it right. Nothing going against the Knicks but themselves.
But yeah, they made a couple of moves this offseason. They moved on from Julius Randle. They were able to get Mikal Bridges. OG Anunoby obviously happened during the trade deadline last season. They also got Cat, but guess what? Boston has a fucking dog. They have a dog. They have a dog. Sorry, New York. You're going to be hearing a lot of that during this series, because that is the series that we're getting into. You guys got the cat. We have the dog, Luke Cornett.
Now throw that cat mask away. Throw that thing. Seriously. Toss it. There we go. Thank you. That's the energy we got to bring against Cat and the New York Knicks next round, because I do believe it's going to be the Knicks. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I believe. I think the Knicks are going to win one of the next 2 games. Game 6 obviously would be the most optimal, but here's my thing. Game 7 back at the Garden. Now, I know last year, Knicks Pistons, it went a certain way for the Knicks. The home crowd advantage didn't play into the hands of the Knicks. But this year, the Pistons, gutsy win in Game 5. I'll say that. Gutsy win in Game 5. Gutsy win in Game 2 in this series. But the Pistons in that spot, it's a big spot for them. We saw the meltdown in Game 1. We've seen their offense down the stretch. Not always the best options. Obviously, Cade Cunningham is getting what he wants, but the rest of the offense, it doesn't look like they have a consistent flow down the stretch. And the Knicks, well, I should say the Pistons, talking about the Pistons. I was talking about the Pistons offense right there, but the Pistons offense, even outside of their offense, just the little details down the stretch of games for the Pistons have been they've been fumbling the details a little bit down the stretch against the Knicks in this series, particularly trying to get the ball in bounds, trying to get past half court, just running a simple play on the offensive end in which they know can get them a bucket. The Pistons are certainly lacking that. Their offense down the stretch. The Pistons and the Rockets look a little similar right now, where down, the Pistons understand Cade Cunningham's going to be running the offense, and that's the advantage the Pistons have over the Rockets. But they're 2 offenses that strike me as a little thin come crunch time when it comes to the options they really trust and believe in, as well as play styles. So the Pistons, kind of relatable to the Rockets in the sense, obviously, half of their roster is still very young. The other half, veteran-led roster, but like I've said, I hate to call guys scraps, but they were kind of scraps from other teams. You know, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley. They're quality players, but they're players in which teams who had them before didn't exactly want. And the Celtics in a playoff series against the Pistons, I think they would be able to attack multiple mismatch opportunities against the Pistons, as well as shut down many of the Pistons' options. And we saw some of that come out within this Orlando series as well. The Orlando Magic role players never stepped up, not once, this entire series. That could be the same for the Detroit Pistons if the Celtics and Pistons meet next round. However, I think it's going to be the Knicks. I think the Knicks, they have the best clutch time player in this series in Jalen Brunson. He's shown that time and time again. They have a lot in Karl Anthony Towns. They go through both of those guys. But I think the Knicks are going to pull out this series against the Pistons. I think they're going to win one of two in games, either 6 or 7. 7 will be at home for the Knicks, and if they lose game 6, I still have a lot of what do I have in the Knicks to win game 7? I don't want to say faith, because I don't know if it's faith that I have. I don't want to say it's hope either, because I don't want to hope the Knicks win either. I have confidence, right? I have confidence in the Knicks potentially winning that game 7 at home. And if they do, the Celtics, we've talked about this Knicks-Celtics matchup all season long. First of all, the Knicks have 2 scoring options. It's Towns, it's Brunson. Those 2 guys, they're both defensive liabilities for the Knicks, which will be problems for them next series. We didn't see that in this Magic series. The Magic, a great defensive team, versatility off the charts, offensively had no options whatsoever. Well, this Knicks team, they're going to have 2 great offensive options who are going to be defensive liabilities out there on the floor. And then the rest of their defensive-oriented players for the Knicks, they're actually going to be offensive liabilities. Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby. Mikal Bridges, the better offensive player of the trio there, I will say, and we all know he can get his shots up, but just out of those 3, I think the Celtics are going to be able to take those guys away. I think they're going to be able to put pressure on Brunson. I think they're going to be able to attack Brunson. They're also going to be able to throw a lot of physicality. Think of all 5 bigs on the Celtics roster. They're going to have a lot of physicality to throw at Karl Anthony Towns, and it's going to be a much different style of series the Celtics see against the Knicks, and I would not be surprised whatsoever if the Celtics actually find an easier time playing the New York Knicks than they did the Orlando Magic in the first round. Well, I would not be surprised whatsoever. The Knicks' depth as well. The Knicks off the bench, Campaign, Miles McBride, Achua, like there really isn't much off the Knicks bench either right now. That's been a huge downfall of the Knicks this season, is their depth. They came in with no depth, never really addressed that throughout the season. They're another team paying a lot for the top of their roster, as are the Celtics, obviously, this year. But the Knicks are another one of those teams. I expect the Knicks to win this series. I expect it to be Celtics-Knicks finally. We find a third time's a charm, folks. Third time's a charm. We try something for a third time. Sometimes it works out. And that would be the Celtics and Knicks. Again, 2023, the Heat beat the Knicks before they reached the Celtics. 2024, the Pacers beat the Knicks before they reached the Celtics. 2025, will it be the Pistons? Still to be seen, but right now the Knicks do have the upper hand, up 3-2 on the Detroit Pistons. The Knicks will look to close out that series on Thursday night, 2 nights after the Boston Celtics close out their series against the Orlando Magic here tonight. Game 5, the Celtics win 120-89. Oh yeah. Get the lawyers in here. Get the attorneys. Come on. Get the lawyers in here. Come on. Yeah. Get Griffin in here. Oh no, I guess it's like the whole song. I don't know. This might be really bad for this postgame, folks. This might be really bad, but we're having fun. Get the lawyers in here, the attorneys. Get them in here. All right, folks. That's going to do it here for us on Postgame tonight. We, of course, had you covered here for the entire first-round series against the Orlando Magic as the Boston Celtics made their way through the series, beating the Orlando Magic in 5 games, 4-1, losing game 3, winning games 1, to 4-5. The Celtics due to advance to the Eastern Conference semifinals, the 2025 Eastern Conference semifinals, where the Boston Celtics will either face one of the New York Knicks or Detroit Pistons. The Celtics win tonight on the Garden floor, 120-89 over the Orlando Magic, sending the Magic home for the season. We had you guys covered for this whole series. We had you guys covered for this game tonight, and we will have you guys covered for many, many more games still to be played this season from the Boston Celtics. You guys know we have you covered here on Celtics Talk Weekly, but we will see you guys for Game 1 of the Celtics semifinal series against either the Pistons or the Knicks when that comes up on the horizon either Saturday or Sunday. We'll have to wait and see, but tonight the Celtics close out the Orlando Magic in the first round on the Garden floor, 120-89, advancing to the semifinals. That is going to do it here for us tonight, as it did for the Celtics in the first round. As I always say, thank you all for watching. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Alongside of me tonight, Andrew Quinn and Nick Franco over here, getting the points right here. Coming up on the horizon, the Celtics Saturday, Sunday. We will be back here covering the team as always, but you guys know the drill. You guys know how it goes. Go Celtics, folks. And no, don't go Orlando Magic. See y'all, Orlando.
No,
we'll see you next season. We'll see y'all next year, Orlando Magic. As always, go Celtics.